to start an autopsy right away.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Where was he trying to go?
Any place but here.
The Thing, a film that takes the cosy isolation of Antarctica and adds a dash of paranoia, a pinch of gore, and some alien shapeshifting for good measure. It's not exactly the kind of place you'd want to take a holiday, unless you're really into flamethrowers and existential dread. Back in the early 80s, when hairspray abuse was considered fashion, John Carpenter was handed the reins of what would become one of the greatest body horror films ever made. Although a remake of the 1951 The Thing from Another World, Carpenter's version ditched the quaint creature suit and embraced grotesque, otherworldly transformations. What could go wrong with a studio handing you a script about shape-shifting aliens, an isolated research station, and some of the most bizarre body horror ever committed to celluloid?
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Turns out quite a bit. At the time, the project didn't exactly scream summer blockbuster. In fact, Universal Pictures probably thought they'd made a small misstep when E.T., the friendliest alien in the galaxy, decided to beam down the same summer. There's nothing like a cute extraterrestrial stealing the hearts of children to make your film about a body-snatching alien murdering its way through a group of sweaty scientists look a bit off-brand. So with production underway, Carpenter assembled his cast of rugged men, the kind who look like they could grow a full beard just by frowning. At the helm of the cast was Kurt Russell, sporting the most magnificent mane of hair seen on screen since, well, anywhere. His character MacReady is the group's helicopter pilot and all-around tough guy, basically the sort of man you'd want on your side in a bar brawl or an alien invasion. But behind the scenes, things weren't always so stoic. Between the freezing conditions and having to pretend that clumps of latex and goo were convincing alien transformations, morale could get a little chilly. The budget wasn't endless, but Carpenter knew how to stretch it, pushing special effects artist Rob Bottin to his breaking point. Quite literally. The guy ended up in the hospital by the end of filming. There's one thing to be said about this movie, it's that the blood, sweat and tears were all real. Mostly Bottin's, if we're being honest. So what would a film about isolation, mistrust and murderous aliens be without a chilling score to match? Enter Ennio Morricone, the maestro behind The Thing's haunting soundtrack. Morricone, famous for his work on spaghetti westerns, might not seem like the obvious choice for a sci-fi horror set in the Antarctic, but Carpenter wanted something special, something as alien and unsettling as the titular creature itself. What we got was a minimalist masterpiece. It sounds more like the pulse of a dying planet than anything resembling traditional music. Morricone's score is sparse, foreboding and downright nerve-wracking. Rather than the sweeping orchestral swells, it's filled with pulsating electronic beats and eerie low-frequency drones. Mirror the creeping paranoia of the film's characters. Every note feels cold, metallic and alien, perfectly capturing the environment and the ever-present threat of the shape-shifting creature. Morricone's main theme, a simple throbbing heartbeat of a track, is arguably more unsettling than any grandiose symphony could have been. It doesn't overwhelm the action but lurks in the background, like the alien itself, subtle, persistent, and utterly terrifying. The score also blends seamlessly with Carpenter's own signature electronic style. In fact, the collaboration between Carpenter and Morricone was a bit unusual. Carpenter, who was known for composing his own music, as he did for Halloween and Escape from New York, allowed Morricone to take the reins, but still injected some of his own electronic flourishes into the film's soundscape. The result? A perfect fusion of Carpenter's minimalist terror and Morricone's dark atmospheric compositions. So what's with the plot? Well, trust no one, not even the dog. The Thing begins with a Norwegian helicopter chasing a dog across the frozen tundra. Not exactly what you'd expect to kick off an alien horror flick. Yet within minutes, it's clear nothing is as it seems. The dog, not so innocent, the Norwegian crew, desperate to kill it. Soon the Americans at the nearby research station are drawn into the mystery. Only to discover they've unwittingly welcomed an ancient alien life form.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Bennings, go get Childs.
Childs! Mac wants the flamethrower. Mac wants the what? That's what he said. Now move!
That can assimilate and imitate any living organism. Charming. As the alien starts to pick off the researchers one by one, the real terror sets in. Not the creature itself, but the fact that no one knows who the alien is impersonating.
How long were you alone with that dog?
I don't know, an hour and a half maybe.
Mistrust runs rampant, tensions rise, and soon it's not just the alien everyone's trying to survive, it's each other.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Carpenter slowly ratchets up the paranoia, turning the once amiable team into a group of suspicious, trigger-happy wrecks. Claustrophobic setting and lack of any real escape amplify the tension until it's practically suffocating. Macready, ever the rugged hero, takes charge of the group and comes up with a test to reveal the alien.
You see, when a man bleeds, it's just tissue. The blood from one of you things won't obey when it's attacked. It'll try and survive. All away from a hot needle, say.
A simple blood test that ends up being one of the most nerve-wracking scenes in cinematic history. We'll never look at a petri dish the same way again. So, with a cast of beards, Kurt Russell's Macready, with his stunning mullet and penchant for survival, is the epitome of cool under pressure. Armed with a flamethrower and a grim determination, Macready quickly becomes the film's reluctant leader.
To Rook 1. My move. Rook to Knight 6. Checkmate.
Bitch.
He's not the guy who wants to save the day, he's just the guy who doesn't want to die. The rest of the cast is a testosterone-fueled blend of cynicism, paranoia and frosty beards. Wilford Brimley shines as Dr. Blair, who takes his curiosity about the alien's biology a bit too far.
That's not dog. It's imitation. We got to it before it had time to finish.
Finish what?
Finish imitating these dogs.
Eventually locking him in a cabin to avoid losing his mind. Spoiler, he does anyway.
I said watch Clark and watch him close. Do you hear me?
Heath David's Childs, meanwhile, offers a formidable counterpart to Russell's Macready. Childs is the voice of reason, until, of course, reason is out the window and trust is a distant memory.
Anyone messes with me and the whole camp goes.
Everyone in the ensemble gets their moment of suspicion, fear and terror, contributing to the film's tense atmosphere, whether it's T.K. Carter's Knowles on roller skates or Richard Masseur's Clark eyeing the dog a little too closely. Every character feels integral to the web of paranoia and mistrust. The cast doesn't just sell the fear, they live it, and the audience feels it too.
And when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch!
The thing isn't just about a creepy alien who wants to cosplay as your best friend. It's about what happens when trust dissolves and people are left to their own base instincts. The isolation of Antarctica mirrors the emotional isolation of the characters, as they realise they can't even trust the person standing next to them. The film is a masterclass in paranoia. With an alien that can mimic anyone perfectly, every character becomes a potential threat. It's the ultimate trust no one scenario, where the enemy could be hidden beneath the skin of your closest ally. This mistrust spreads like wildfire, creating tension so thick you could cut it with a chainsaw, or, a flamethrower. Then there's the theme of humanity's fragility. Faced with an unknowable, unstoppable force, the men at the station start to unravel, showcasing our vulnerability in the face of the unknown. It's not just about the alien, it's about what the alien reveals in them, fear, violence, and the crumbling of social order. One of the most remarkable aspects of The Thing is how John Carpenter masterfully uses cinematography, practical effects, and sound design to build a sense of claustrophobia and paranoia. Carpenter and cinematographer Dean Cundy deliberately used slow zooms and wide shots throughout the film to convey the sense of isolation that mirrors the emotional state of the characters. The Antarctic landscape itself becomes a character, vast yet oppressive, reminding us that there's no escape from the horrors unfolding in the research station. Cundy's use of lighting also plays a key role. Rather than traditional horror lighting with stark contrasts, The Thing is often dimly lit, casting long shadows that hide as much as they reveal. These visual choices reinforce the constant uncertainty with who or what could be lurking just beyond the light. A particularly clever technique used to sustain tension was Carpenter's decision to frame the characters in group shots, where everyone is in focus, heightening the sense of paranoia. Rather than allowing the camera to follow a specific protagonist through the mayhem, it lingers on the entire group, subtly telling the audience that anyone could be the Thing. No one is privileged with more screen time or focus, emphasising the idea that the threat could come from anyone, at any moment. It's a simple but effective visual technique that draws us deeper into the same headspace as the characters. Whilst we're talking about filmmaking effects, these are practical effects that will ruin your dinner. No retrospective would be complete without talking about botting. Practical effects in The Thing are what set it apart from the rest of the 80s horror crowd. Forget the sterile CGI monstrosities of today. This was an era where effects artists were essentially mad scientists, with latex, fake blood, and a very unhealthy obsession with making you feel uncomfortable. And boy did they succeed. Who can forget the infamous scene where Norris's chest caves in, sprouts teeth and takes a bite out of the man's arms? If you didn't lose your lunch during that sequence, you probably weren't paying attention. Botting's creations are grotesque, nightmarish, and, well, absolutely disgusting, in the best way possible. These effects weren't just about gross-out moments, though. They perfectly captured the film's central theme of mistrust. The alien could be anyone, or anything, and those grotesque transformations? A constant reminder that no one is safe. Despite its legendary status today, The Thing was not exactly embraced with open arms back in 1982. When The Thing was released, it was more of a belly flop than a blockbuster. The film had a production budget of around $15 million, quite substantial for a horror movie at the time, but only grossed about $19.6 million domestically, and that's before marketing costs were factored in, so it didn't exactly turn a profit. While it technically wasn't an absolute financial disaster, it was certainly considered a disappointment by the studio, especially when compared to the roaring success of E.T., which hit cinemas just 2 weeks earlier. Spielberg's heartwarming alien adventure was busy melting hearts, while The Thing was busy melting faces. To add salt to the wound, critics weren't much kinder. Many at the time lambasted the film for being too gory, too nihilistic, and frankly just too bleak. Some even accused Carpenter of relying too heavily on gruesome special effects, rather than the story or character development. All of this negative reception led to the film being viewed as a commercial and critical failure upon release.
Fuck you too!
In retrospect, it's become one of the great ironies of cinema history that a film now hailed as a masterpiece was initially considered such a flop. Despite The Thing's frosty reception at the box office, its legacy has only grown warmer with time. Ironic, considering the cold wasteland it takes place in, what was once considered too bleak, too violent and too disturbing has now become a beloved classic of the horror genre, widely regarded as one of the greatest horror films ever made. Rob Bottin's legendary practical effects still stand up today. And you can see the influence of the movie in everything from Stranger Things to The X-Files, anywhere paranoia, mistrust and grotesque body horror rear their ugly heads. And let's not forget that iconic blood test scene, which has been mimicked and referenced in countless films and TV shows, cementing itself as one of horror's most iconic moments. Oh, and Spiderhead, which lives somewhere in my subconscious along with the clown doll from Poltergeist. As for the film's enigmatic ending, well, that's a story in itself. Macready and Childs sitting in the snow, staring each other down as the embers of the base die out. Is one of them the Thing? Both? Neither? Carpenter never confirmed either way, leaving us all to wallow in glorious uncertainty. Theories abound. Some fans suggest Macready's visible breath proves his humanity, while Childs lacks any sign of it, pointing to alien impersonation. Others think Macready's whiskey bottle was filled with gasoline, a sneaky test to see if Childs would notice.
If we've got any surprises for each other, I don't think we're in much shape to do anything about it.
Spoiler, he doesn't, but like the alien itself, the truth remains a mystery, with Carpenter intentionally keeping it vague to preserve the paranoia. This ambiguity is precisely why The Thing continues to captivate audiences. The tension doesn't die with the credits, it lingers, much like the shape-shifting monster that terrorised the research base. Over the years, The Thing's legacy stretched beyond cinema, spawning comics, video games, and a 2011 prequel, which, let's agree, we don't need to revisit. It's a testament to Carpenter's vision that his film endures, not just as a piece of entertainment, but as a chilling, unsettling experience. But asks one enduring question: who can you trust? In addition, the film's slow-burning psychological dread has permeated modern horror. It showed that true terror doesn't necessarily come from jump scares, but from the gnawing uncertainty of not knowing who you can trust. The film also enjoys a prominent position in discussions about remakes, where so many modern attempts to reboot or reimagine classic films fall flat. The Thing is held up as a rare success story, taking the premise of a 1950s sci-fi flick and turning it into something that was truly ahead of its time. John Carpenter didn't just remake The Thing, he transformed it. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of being too trusting, or perhaps just a reminder that you should always keep a flamethrower handy when venturing to isolated frozen wastelands. John Carpenter's film may have started as a misunderstood flop, but it has since crawled its way to the top of the horror pantheon, with the same ruthless tenacity as its titular creature. It showed us that true terror lies not just in what lurks in the dark, but in what lurks inside the people you thought you knew. Is your best mate secretly an alien? Maybe, but are you willing to take the risk? With the effects, chilling score, and a cast that perfectly sells the tension and fear of unknown, The Thing has earned its status as a cult classic. And more than that, it has proved to be one of the finest explorations of paranoia and survival in film history. Even now, decades later, it still resonates with audiences and filmmakers alike, reminding us all of one very important lesson: trust no one, not even your dog. And while you're left pondering whether the person next to you is secretly a tentacled monstrosity in disguise, why not subscribe to the channel? It's free, and unlike the alien in The Thing, probably won't melt your face off. Probably.